She thought she was escaping one prison when she dove into his car, but the way he locked those doors made her realize she might have just surrendered her freedom to someone far more dangerous. Before we dive into this story, make sure to subscribe. The laughter drifting from the ballroom sounded elegant to everyone else, but to Lena it felt like a cage closing. The chandeliers sparkled, champagne overflowed, and every guest congratulated her as if she were the luckiest woman alive. She smiled back, practiced and perfect, even as her chest tightened beneath the corseted silk of her engagement dress. She needed air. Just a minute. A moment to breathe. Slipping away from the warm glow of the party, she followed a quiet hallway where hotel staff rushed in and out of service doors. She should have turned around the second she heard voices, her father's low murmur and her fiancé's deeper, colder tone. But she froze. Something in their voices was wrong. "You'll have everything once she's officially mine," her fiancé Adrian said. Lena pressed her back to the wall, the fabric of her gown whispering against the wallpaper. Her father exhaled sharply. "I held up my end. She's young, obedient. She'll do what she's told. Just make sure the alliance holds. We can't afford another mistake." Lena's heart slammed against her ribs. A pause. Then Adrian's smooth, confident reply. "I don't care about the girl, Victor. She's leverage. Useful. That's all." A burst of quiet laughter followed, her father's laughter. Lena felt it like a knife to the chest. She had always known her father valued image, reputation, power. But hearing him discuss her as an asset, something to be traded, sent a cold wave of disbelief through her. Her fingers curled into the delicate fabric of her skirt. Adrian continued, voice dropping darker. "Once she signs those documents, your debt becomes mine, and I'll handle it my way." Her father replied in a tight whisper, "Just don't damage her. She still needs to look the part." Lena didn't remember moving. One second she was frozen in place, the next she was stumbling backward, her breaths too shallow, her vision blurring. She needed to get away from them. Now, before someone noticed she'd heard. She fled down the hall on shaking legs, the room spinning as pieces of their conversation repeated in her skull. Obedient. Leverage. Useful. Not one word about love. Not one word about her. The ballroom music swelled again as she neared the exit. The gilded doors loomed in front of her, guarded by smiling staff who believed the evening was about romance and celebration. Lena kept her head down, her steps fast but controlled, her heart pounding so loudly she was certain everyone must hear it. Then she reached the glass lobby doors and ran. The cold night slammed into her like a warning. Rain-slick pavement reflected the neon lights of the city, and car horns blared in the distance. Her red heels skidded on the wet sidewalk, her gown gathering dirt as she sprinted into the darkness with no plan, just instinct and panic. Her phone was the only thing she carried. No purse, no wallet, no escape plan prepared for a moment like this. She'd spent years pleasing people who never once asked what she wanted. Now she was alone, breathless, terrified. Yet for the first time in her life, she felt something like freedom tinged with fear. Behind her, the hotel doors burst open. Voices shouted. Flashlights sliced across the rain. Adrian's men, already looking for her. Lena ducked into an alley, pressing herself against the wall as footsteps thundered past. Her lungs burned, but she forced herself to move. She couldn't go back. Not after what she heard. Not after realizing she was nothing more than currency in someone else's game. She didn't know where she was going. She only knew one thing. She would rather face the unknown streets of the city in a ruined gown and red heels than live one more second as someone's property. And tonight, she would run until her legs gave out, or until she found somewhere to disappear entirely. Rain plastered Lena's hair to her cheeks as she tore down the street, the glittering beads of her gown catching in her heels with every frantic step. Her lungs burned. Her legs shook. She didn't dare look behind her, not when she could hear Adrian's men shouting her name, their voices slicing through the night like knives. The city felt endless and hostile, a maze of slick pavement and glowing neon lights that blurred beneath her watery vision. Her red heels, beautiful, expensive, chosen for a future she no longer wanted, slapped against the ground with uneven rhythm as she stumbled around a corner. She froze. 2 of Adrian's men stood at the far end of the block, scanning the street. One of them lifted a hand to his earpiece, muttering orders she couldn't make out. But she didn't need the words to understand the tone. They were close. Too close. Lena ducked behind a row of parked cars, her fingers trembling as she gripped her wet skirts, trying to quiet her breaths. Her heart hammered against her ribs so hard she thought it might burst. Another flashlight beam swept the road. Panic clawed up her spine. She pressed herself lower, rain dripping from her eyelashes, and risked a glance toward the street. And that was when she saw it. A black SUV sat idling at the curb across from her hiding spot. Its windows were tinted, the engine a low, steady rumble, exhaust curling into the cold air. The driver wasn't visible, not fully, but the silhouette of a man sat behind the wheel, unmoving, like he'd been waiting for something. Or someone. Her throat tightened. He wasn't one of Adrian's men. Those men wore matching suits, matching scowls. This vehicle was different, sleeker, darker, anonymous. Safe? Probably not, but safer than being dragged back into that mansion of lies. Footsteps pounded closer. A flashlight swept over the cars near her. Lena didn't think. She ran. Her heels slipped on the wet concrete, nearly sending her crashing to the ground as she sprinted across the street. Horns blared. A taxi swerved around her. The storm drenched her gown, turning the silk heavy around her legs. She didn't stop. Couldn't stop. She grabbed the SUV's rear door handle and yanked it open, throwing herself inside with a gasp. And froze. The man in the driver's seat turned slowly, his eyes meeting hers in the dim glow of the dashboard. Cold eyes. Sharp eyes. Eyes that didn't widen in surprise or soften in concern. They studied her, measured her, stripped her bare in a single sweep. Lena opened her mouth. I'm sorry, I didn't... The door locks clicked. All of them. Her breath hitched. Please, don't. Just let me... He didn't move for several seconds, just stared at her with a frightening calm, rain drumming steadily on the roof above them. Then he lifted one hand and pressed the lock button again, deliberately, silently, as if to make sure she understood. She did. Her pulse thundered in her ears. His voice, when it finally came, was low and rough, with an edge that vibrated straight through her bones. Who sent you? Lena blinked. What? He turned fully in his seat now, the leather shifting beneath him. His jaw was rigid, his eyes dark and unreadable, every muscle in his body coiled tight. I said, he repeated, enunciating each word with lethal clarity. Who sent you? No one, she whispered. I just needed... I'm hiding. I swear. From who? Her throat closed. Rain hammered harder against the windows, as if urging her to answer, to run, to do anything but sit here in the dark, with a man whose presence alone felt like a warning. She swallowed, her voice shaking. My fiancé. His eyebrow lifted slowly, just barely. You ran from a fiancé, he said, not as a question, but as an evaluation. A puzzle piece he wasn't sure how to place. Then his gaze drifted down. To her mud-soaked gown. Her shaking hands, her tears sliding down rain-washed cheeks. Her bare shoulders shivering from cold and fear. Something in his expression shifted. Just a flicker, nothing more. But enough to send a confusing swirl of relief and danger through her veins. Before Lena could speak again, a flashlight beam washed over the SUV's back window. Voices approached. Adrian's men were only feet away. Her eyes widened in terror. The stranger noticed. He didn't ask any more questions. Instead, with a slight tilt of his head, he murmured, Buckle up. Then he shifted the car into drive, his eyes never leaving hers until the SUV surged into the stormy night, and Lena realized she hadn't escaped danger at all. She had just climbed straight into it. Rain smeared across the windshield in frantic streams as the SUV shot forward, tires skidding before catching traction. Lena gripped the seatbelt with both hands, her breath trapped somewhere between her ribs and her throat. Streetlights blurred into streaks of gold and white, while the stranger, Damien she would soon learn, drove like a man who had outrun danger before and fully expected it to be right on his heels again. The car interior vibrated with tension, thick and electric. Damien didn't look at her. Not once. His jaw flexed as he wove through traffic with lethal precision, eyes flicking between mirrors and the road ahead. To him, this wasn't a rescue. It was a threat he hadn't decided how to neutralize yet. Finally, his voice cut through the darkness, deep and cold. "Tell me again," he said, not raising his voice but sharpening it until the words felt like blades. "Why you got into my car?" Lena swallowed hard. "I told you. I was running. I needed to get away." "From your fiancé." He said it without emotion, but she felt the weight of his disbelief. "Yes." A humorless sound escaped him. Not a laugh. Not even close. "No one runs from a fiancé like that." "You don't know him," she whispered. "I don't need to." He finally turned his head, just enough for his eyes to find hers in the dim interior. The intensity in them was almost tangible, like he was peeling back layers of her story, searching for the lie hiding underneath. "What I know is people don't dive into a stranger's SUV in the middle of the night unless they're desperate or dangerous." "I'm not dangerous," she said quickly. He hummed, non-committal. "Everyone is dangerous when they need something." Lena shook her head, rainwater dripping from her hair onto her shoulders. "I don't need anything from you, your car was there. It was the only way to hide." "That's convenient." "It's coincidence." "I don't believe in coincidence." His tone didn't rise, but it grew colder, heavier, like gravity itself was shifting toward him. Lena's stomach twisted. He was convinced she was lying. He was convinced she had been sent. "What's your name?" he asked. "Lena." "Last name." She hesitated, just a fraction of a second, but he caught it instantly. His eyes sharpened. "Don't make me ask twice." "Marlowe," she said, forcing the word out. "Lena Marlowe." The way his jaw ticked made her pulse quicken. Had he heard the name before? Did he recognize it? Her father had powerful connections, Adrian too. What if this stranger belonged to their world? Before she could spiral further, Damien spoke again. "Who sent you, Lena Marlowe?" "No one." "Try again." She shook her head, voice cracking. "No one sent me." "Is that right?" His hand shifted on the wheel. "Because you jumped into my car the exact moment I was supposed to meet someone, and that someone didn't show." Her breath stilled. "I don't know anything about that," she whispered. "Sure you do." His knuckles tightened on the wheel. "You show up in a $5,000 dress, drenched in rain and fear, right when my enemies are supposed to make a move." He looked at her again, and she wished he hadn't. His stare pinned her like a butterfly beneath glass. "Tell me what they told you to do." Nothing," she stammered. I swear to you, I'm not part of anything. I didn't even know your car was here until I saw it. I'm just trying to get away from a man who treats me like property." Something flickered in Damien's eyes. Not sympathy. Never that. More like recognition. Understanding threats. Understanding cages. But it disappeared as quickly as it came. "If you're lying to me," he said quietly, dangerously, "I'll know. And you'll regret it." "I'm not lying." "Then you won't mind answering a few questions." Her stomach dropped. "What kind of questions?" "The kind that tell me whether you're a trap," he said simply. The SUV turned down a narrower road, away from the main traffic. The buildings growing darker, taller, less forgiving. "You're not taking me back, are you?" she asked, panic creeping into her voice. "Back where?" To the hotel. His eyes met hers one last time through the mirror. "I'm not taking you anywhere until I know exactly who you are," he said, "and why the hell you ended up in my car on the worst night possible." Lena's breath caught. Because the way he said it, the way he looked at her, told her something she wasn't ready to face. She might have escaped her fiancé, but she hadn't escaped danger. She had crashed straight into the middle of it. The sudden flash of headlights in the rear window made Damien's hand tighten around the steering wheel. He didn't slow, didn't speak, didn't even blink. But Lena felt the shift in the car, a subtle tension that wrapped around them like a tightening cord. He checked the mirror once, twice, then hissed a single word under his breath. "Damn." Her pulse spiked. What is it?" He didn't answer. Instead, he flicked off the headlights, the SUV plunging into near darkness as he guided it into a narrow side street. Rain hammered the roof harder, wind shoving against the car like nature itself wanted to warn them. Lena leaned toward the window, her breath fogging the glass. The black sedan that had been behind them moments ago slid into view again at the far end of the street. No headlights, no hesitation. It was tailing them. On purpose. Her voice quivered. Are those your people?" "No," Damien said sharply. Her stomach dropped. The sedan sped up. Damien accelerated too. For a moment they were flying down the alley, metal and rainwater and adrenaline blurring together. Then a second car pulled out of nowhere, turning abruptly into their path. Damien swore, jerking the wheel. Tires screeched. Lena slammed sideways against the door, heart lurching into her throat. They were boxed in, front and back. No room to escape. "Are they here for you or me?" Lena choked out. Damien shot her a look, dark, slicing, deadly. "If they were here for you, they'd be dragging you out already." Not comforting. Not even close. He shifted the car into reverse, the engine growling, but the sedan behind them glided closer, easing forward like a predator toying with its prey. "Why are they following us?" she whispered. "They're following me," Damien said, voice low. "And the timing of you diving into my car couldn't have been worse." The cold dread in her veins deepened. "I told you, I'm not part of this." "Maybe. Or maybe someone knew I'd be meeting a woman tonight, and they sent you instead." Lena's mouth fell open, because that explained everything. His suspicion, his interrogation, his cold, steady stare. "Who were you supposed to meet?" she asked quietly. Damien didn't answer. Instead, he shifted in his seat and turned fully to her, the glow from the dashboard cutting hard shadows across his features. He looked dangerous even when he was still, especially then. "Listen to me," he said. "You've already made my night a hell of a lot more complicated than it was supposed to be. Whatever game your fiancé or father are playing, I don't want any part of it." "I'm not playing anything," she whispered. A sharp sound, a bang on the trunk, made both of them jolt. The car behind them was tapping their bumper, testing their reaction. "Damien!" Her voice broke. He exhaled slowly, decisively. "All right, then we make this simple." He grabbed her chin, firm, not cruel, and tilted her face toward him. "You want out of that engagement?" he said. "You want protection from whoever's tracking you and whoever's hunting me?" Lena nodded stiffly, barely breathing. "Then you do exactly what I say," he continued. "You don't argue. You don't run. You don't open that mouth of yours unless it's to say what I tell you to." Her brows knit. "What does that mean?" Damien leaned closer, his eyes flicking to the cars outside, then back to her, calculating, ruthless. "It means," he said quietly, "for the next 24 hours, you're mine." Lena's chest tightened. "Yours? How?" "Pretend fiancé." She blinked. "What?" "I was supposed to arrive tonight with one. A real one." He bit out the last words like they tasted bitter. "Someone who bailed and left me exposed. These people outside, they were expecting a woman beside me. And you arriving in my car at the exact wrong time means you have two choices. He lifted 2 fingers. 1, you get out right now and take your chances with them. Her stomach knotted so violently she thought she might be sick. Or 2, his gaze dropped briefly to her lips, then lifted again with icy certainty. You play the part, my fiancé, for 1 day. You follow my lead and keep your mouth shut. I get you past them. I get you hidden. And in return, he leaned closer, voice dropping to a dangerous whisper, your fiancé never sees you again. Outside, another bang jarred the car. The sedan behind them revved its engine. Time was up. Lena sucked in a shaky breath. I don't even know you. You don't need to, Damien said evenly. You just need to pick. Her pulse hammered in her ears. Stay and pretend, or walk into the arms of men who clearly weren't here to talk. She lifted her chin, eyes locking with his. I pick the deal. His expression didn't soften, not even slightly, but something settled in his eyes. Approval? Readiness? Satisfaction? Good, Damien murmured. Then hold on. He slammed the gear into drive, crushed the accelerator, and aimed the SUV straight toward the car blocking their path, because pretending to be his fiancée was apparently only the beginning of the danger she'd just agreed to. Rain clung to Lena's hair and eyelashes by the time the SUV rolled through the wrought iron gates. Massive, intricate, guarded gates opening automatically at Damien's approach, as if recognizing him on sight. The long drive curved into darkness, lined with old, towering trees whose branches scraped the sky like hands. Every few meters, motion lights snapped on, revealing glimpses of stone statues and trimmed hedges shaped like wolves. Not a home, a fortress. The SUV glided to a stop beneath a grand portico. Before Lena could catch her breath, the front door swung open. 2 men in black jackets stepped outside, large, silent, alert. Another held an umbrella. They moved like a choreographed unit, not quite military but close. Damien stepped out first. No one approached him. No one dared. Then, as Lena climbed out, something strange happened. Every man outside straightened, immediately, simultaneously, and dipped their heads with crisp reverence. Miss Damien, one said. Miss Damien. The title hit her like a slap. She almost turned around to check who they were talking to, but Damien's hand curled around her waist, possessive, controlling, warning her not to break character. She forced a nod. Thank you. Her voice came out thin, unsteady, but it didn't matter. The men lowered their gazes respectfully, stepping aside to let her pass as if she truly belonged at Damien Stone's side. Inside the house was cathedral quiet. Shadows softened the hallways, and rich amber lights glowed from sconces shaped like iron claws. The air smelled faintly of cedar and something warm, firewood maybe, or expensive cologne lingering in the walls. A woman in a tailored gray dress approached them, not young, not old, but precise, polished, and frighteningly observant. She carried a folder, and a smile that never reached her sharp eyes. Welcome home, sir, she said. Then she turned to Lena. And welcome, Miss Damien. Everything is prepared for your arrival. Prepared. Lena swallowed. She'd only been Miss Damien for 15 minutes. Damien gave the woman a quick nod. Thank you, Mara. Put 2 men on external patrol, full rotation, no blind spots, and make sure the North Hall is secured. Mara's eyes flicked to Lena for the briefest second, almost curious, almost calculating, before she nodded. Of course, sir. Staff scurried. Doors opened and closed. Somewhere deeper in the house, a distant rumble of metal sliding into place echoed through the halls. Security shutters. Lena shivered. Damien gently but firmly guided her further inside. She felt every eye skim over her, staff pretending not to stare, guards pretending not to measure her, someone behind her whispering, "So that's her," before being shushed. They believed the lie already. As they passed a long hallway, Lena turned her head and froze. A row of cameras, small, discreet, tucked into corners. Not the normal kind either. Sleek, military grade, watching every angle. She swallowed hard. Is that normal? Damien didn't even look. Necessary. His tone left no room for questions, but she had them. 1,000 of them. About who he was, who he wasn't, and what, exactly, she had stepped into. They reached a massive double-door room. The moment Damien pushed it open, warmth flooded over her. A fireplace roared, casting golden light across high shelves filled with books and old maps. It looked almost safe. Almost. The doors shut behind them with a solid thud. Lena turned to face him. They called me Miss Damien. They would have questioned anything else, he said simply. And the cameras? The guards? The locked rooms? They're not locked to keep you out. He stepped closer, eyes darker, voice lower. They're locked to keep dangers out. She didn't believe him. Not entirely. He moved past her, shrugging off his coat and pulling out a gun from an inner holster with a casualness that made her pulse spike. He set it down on the table like it was a pen. You'll stay in the East Wing tonight, he said. It's the safest part of the estate. You mean the easiest part to keep me contained? He looked at her. Really looked. Hard and unreadable. If I wanted to contain you, he murmured, I wouldn't need a wing. Her breath caught. Damien walked closer, stopping just inches away. His presence swallowed the room. My staff believes you're mine, he said, which means they will protect you as if you are. The implication hung in the air, heavy, dangerous. Then his voice softened, just barely. If you want to survive the next 24 hours, Lena, you need to wear the mask. He reached out and brushed a raindrop from her cheek with his thumb. And you need to wear it convincingly. Her heart pounded hard enough to shake her ribs, because somewhere behind his command, behind the mask he wanted her to wear, she sensed the truth. Damien wasn't only dangerous to others. He might be dangerous to her in a very different way, and she wasn't sure she wanted to run from that. Not anymore. The house had grown impossibly quiet by midnight. Not peaceful, never peaceful, but the kind of quiet where shadows feel alive and walls seem to listen. Lena lay awake in the unfamiliar bed of the East Wing, staring at the ornate ceiling as rain tapped the windows. Sleep wouldn't come. Not when her entire life had been uprooted in the span of hours. Not when she could still feel Damien's hand at her waist, the echo of his voice commanding everyone in this mansion as if he owned the air they breathed. She sat up, smoothing her palms down the soft silk blanket. Maybe she just needed water, or movement, or answers. Answers she was afraid to want. The hallway outside her room was dim, lit only by discreet floor lights that cast a pale path toward the main hall. She followed them quietly, unwilling to wake anyone, though part of her suspected no one truly slept in Damien's house. Guards sat at corners like statues. Cameras tracked her silently. The air hummed with a constant low thrum of security. Then she heard it. A voice, Damien's voice, hard, sharp, low, echoing faintly from down the hall. She froze, instinctively stepping into an alcove. I don't care if he's family, Damien hissed. If he stole from me, he pays for it. Lena pressed her back against the cool stone, breath catching. A second voice rumbled through the phone speaker, deep, tense, urgent. They're panicking, Damien snapped. Shipments delayed, debts stacking up, men asking questions. This wasn't a mistake. Someone inside opened their mouth. A pause. Silence thick enough to choke on. Then Damien's voice dropped to a deadlier whisper. Find the traitor before I do. Her heart hammered so loudly she feared the guards would hear it. Shipments, debts, traitors. This wasn't corporate talk. This wasn't business. This was something darker. Something that made her feel foolish for ever thinking he was simply dangerous in the romanticized, brooding way. He was dangerous because he lived in a world where betrayal ended in blood. She took a single step back and winced as the floor creaked. The sound was tiny, barely audible, but Damien's voice stopped mid-sentence. Not fading, not ending, stopping. He knew. Lena darted the opposite direction, breath tight, moving blindly through the hall. She only needed to get back to her room, to safety, to distance. But this wing was a maze of heavy wooden doors and unmarked hallways, and she turned a corner too fast, and stumbled into a room that was not meant to be open. It was dimly lit, a single lamp casting a cone of light over a long desk. Shelves lined the walls, filled not with books but with files. Folders, boxes labeled with dates. Screens flickered silently on the far wall, showing multiple camera feeds, hallways, entrances, gates, even the estate perimeter. This was no office. This was a command center. Lena's eyes widened as she approached the desk, drawn by something both invisible and inevitable. On the surface were scattered papers, photos, printed reports, maps with red circles. One photo showed a man she didn't recognize being shoved into a car. Another showed two men shaking hands at a marina. Another was a warehouse marked with coordinates. Then she saw the folder. Her father's name on the tab. Her entire body went cold. David Hart. A name she thought she understood. A man she believed she knew. Her trembling fingers hovered before she finally opened the folder. The first page hit like a punch. A surveillance photo. Her father outside a restaurant with a man Lena recognized from news headlines. Victor Salvi, a known criminal whispering behind politicians and businessmen. Another document listed funds transferred between her father's consulting firm and an unidentified holding group. Her throat constricted. Dad? Pages rustled as she flipped through, searching for something that felt familiar, something that proved this was a mistake. But the only thing familiar was the handwriting on a note, tucked between pages, a copy of her father's signature from an old business license. Her knees weakened. Damien knew. He knew her name. He knew her father. He knew more about her family than she did. Let her go. Damien had said those words to his staff earlier. Not about her. About something else. But now they echoed in her ears with a terrifying new meaning. The door behind her clicked softly. She spun, heart leaping to her throat. Damien stood in the doorway, half-shadowed, eyes unreadable. He looked calm, too calm. Calm in the way of someone who had walked into this scene in his mind long before it happened. His gaze dipped to the folder in her hand, then lifted to her face. "You weren't supposed to see that," he said quietly. The softness in his tone only made it worse. She swallowed hard. "You knew who I was?" His jaw tightened. "Lena. You knew," she repeated, the word cracking. "From the moment I got into your car!" A muscle in his cheek twitched. Her breath trembled. What did my father do? What is all of this? Why do you have files on him? Damien stepped forward. She stepped back until her spine hit the desk. He didn't reach for her. He didn't touch her. But his presence pressed against her like gravity. "You weren't a stranger in the street," he said. "You were a complication I was already preparing for." Her world tilted. So this, all of this, the deal, the act, the protection? "It's real," he snapped, sharper than she'd ever heard. "Everything I've done has been real. Except your honesty." Damien's breath stilled. His eyes darkened. And for the first time since she met him, he looked cornered. Not by enemies. Not by traitors. By her. "Lena," he said quietly, "your father's secrets didn't die with him, and they're coming for you next." Her pulse stuttered, because even through her fear, one truth rang loudest. He wasn't her captor. He wasn't her savior. He was the only one who knew why her life had just been rewritten in blood. Lena felt the room tighten around her, as if the walls themselves understood the conversation that was about to happen, and wanted no part in it. Damien closed the door behind him with a quiet click. Not slamming, not threatening, but final. A lock sliding into place without needing to be touched. He didn't approach her immediately. He let the silence stretch, heavy enough to crush the air between them. Only when she lifted her chin, forcing herself to meet his gaze, did he finally move. "I didn't want to tell you like this," he said. Her laugh was hollow. "Oh? And how did you plan on telling me? Before or after the wedding you planned for us?" His jaw flexed, but he didn't rise to the bait. "You deserve the truth." "Which part?" she whispered, heart pounding. "The part where you already knew my name? Or the part where you know more about my father than I ever did?" Damien stepped closer, slow, deliberate. "The part where your father, David Hart, didn't just owe money. He owed people." Pain, hot and sudden, shot up her throat. "My father wasn't a criminal." "No," Damien said softly. "But he stood in front of them, lied for them, covered for them, until he couldn't anymore." Her stomach twisted. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't have to. His words struck harder because they were calm. "He came to me," Damien said, 3 months before he died. Lena froze. He knew someone was coming for him. He knew he couldn't pay what he owed, and he knew his death wouldn't erase the debt. Her voice came out thin. "What debt?" Damien hesitated. "Tell me," she demanded. He met her eyes. $23 million. The world tilted sideways. Lena gripped the edge of the desk to stay upright. "That's impossible. My father made a good living, but—" "He didn't lose the money," Damien said. "He stole it from the wrong group and used most of it to cover up other people's crimes. When he tried to walk away, they reminded him what would happen to his family." Family. Her knees weakened. "So he arranged an alliance," Damien continued, his voice sharpening. "A marriage contract with your fiancé's family." "No." Her voice splintered. "Yes." Damien's gaze was unwavering. "To consolidate power. To protect you. To pay his debt with your future." Her pulse hammered out of control. "You're lying." Damien didn't flinch. "I wish I was." She staggered back, her breath shallow and quick. Images flashed, her father's tired eyes the last few months, the sudden secrecy, the arguments behind closed doors, her fiancé's smug, knowing smiles. Damien watched her unravel silently, the way a surgeon watches a wound bleed, to understand the damage, not to pity it. "You knew," she said, forcing the words out. "You knew all of this. You knew who I was before I climbed into your car." Damien took a step forward. "I knew the name Hart," he said quietly. "I knew your father was involved. But I didn't know it was you until you said your name. And then you just— what? Kept going with the lie? Used me because it was convenient?" His expression hardened just enough to betray something raw beneath the surface. A flicker she couldn't name. "You think I'm using you?" he asked. Lena swallowed. "Aren't you?" Damien's eyes darkened. "Someone in your household has been feeding information to my enemies for months. They knew about my shipments, my men, my movements. Whoever it is, they're close to your family. Close to you." Her pulse stuttered. "Who?" "We don't know yet." His voice was a low, lethal promise. "But they were the ones who arranged the marriage. And they planned to use you as leverage." Her lips parted in horror. "Leverage? Against you?" "Yes." She stepped back until her spine hit a bookshelf. "So what am I now? A pawn? A bargaining chip?" Damien's jaw tightened. "You're not a pawn in my house." "That's not how it feels," she whispered. His expression flickered, barely, but enough. Enough to show she wasn't the only one feeling trapped in a game neither of them started. "You think I wanted you involved in this?" he said. "You think I wanted you dragged into the middle of a war your father tried to stop?" A bitter laugh spilled from her. "And yet here I am, in your mansion, wearing your name, pretending to be yours." Damien moved closer, his voice dropping to a low, dangerous rumble. "You think I don't know what it feels like to be used, played, betrayed by blood?" His gaze sharpened. "We're not on opposite sides, Lena. We're victims of the same men." Her breath hitched, because there was something in his eyes she hadn't seen before. Not ice, not control. Wounded anger. A truth she wasn't meant to see. A mirror of her own shock and betrayal. He reached out slowly, not touching her, but close enough that she felt the pull. "They used you," Damien said softly. "They used me. And now they want to use us against each other." Her heart thudded painfully. "So what am I supposed to do?" she whispered. "Stay alive," Damien said. "Stay here. Stay with me. And until we know who the traitor is, trust no one except the person who has the most to lose if you die." She stared at him, breath trembling. "And who is that?" Damien's answer came without hesitation. "Me." The storm had finally moved on by morning, but the air inside Damien's mansion felt heavier than the clouds that had hung over the city all night. Lena sat at the long wooden table in the kitchen, if it could even be called a kitchen. It looked more like a chef's dream, with untouched toast and tea cooling in front of her. She hadn't slept. Not after learning her father had bartered her future like a poker chip. Not after Damien told her someone in her family's house had betrayed him. And not after realizing she wasn't collateral damage. She was the leverage everyone wanted. The door whispered open behind her. "Damien." Even without looking, she felt the shift in the atmosphere. The staff's quiet chatter died instantly. Chairs scraped, footsteps halted. His presence always rearranged the room, but today, it rearranged her too, tension tightening her spine, a shard of cold anticipation settling beneath her ribs. He walked past the staff and came straight to her side. "We need to talk," he said. Lena looked up at him. His jaw was tight. His tie, usually perfect, hung loose around his neck like he'd tugged it off sometime around dawn. He looked like he had been fighting with shadows all night, and maybe he had. "Is it about what we found in your office?" she asked quietly. "No," he said. "It's worse." Her stomach tightened. "How bad?" Damien didn't answer, not directly. Instead, he reached out and pressed 2 fingers gently under her chin, urging her to stand. "Not here." His voice was low, controlled. And that alone made her legs shake, because Damien only controlled his voice when he was holding something dangerous back. She followed him down a hallway lined with windows that let in the pale morning light. Guards were everywhere today, more than she had ever seen, posted like statues, eyes sharp, back straight. Something had happened. Something big. He led her into a sunroom, a deceptive name, because the walls were reinforced glass, and the door was heavy enough to stop an explosion. Once the door shut, the world outside went quiet, sealed away. Damien turned toward her. "They know," he said. Her throat tightened. "Who knows?" "My enemies," he said. "The families who want what your father owed. The ones who planned your marriage contract. The ones who want me dead." The last word sent a cold prickle up her arms. Damien took a step closer, his gaze pinning her in place. "They know you're here, with me." Her breath hitched. "How?" "A mole. Inside your father's house. Or yours," he said. "Someone close enough to know you ran last night. Someone close enough to notice whose car you climbed into." She swayed where she stood. He reached out instinctively, steadying her with a hand on her waist. "Lena, listen to me," he said, voice softer now, but no less urgent. "They sent a message this morning." Her pulse thumped in her ears. What kind of message? His jaw clenched. "They want you returned. Today. Immediately." Ice filled her veins. "Returned to whom?" "Your fiancé," Damien said. "And his family." She stepped back, heartbeat splintering. "They want me handed over?" "Yes." The sunroom blurred around her. Her hands trembled. "And if you refuse?" she whispered. "If I refuse," Damien corrected, "they'll assume I'm keeping you on purpose. They'll assume you're valuable to me, and they'll come for you harder. They'll come for you like they come for me. Her breath caught. And are they right? She asked, voice shaking. Am I valuable to you? Damien didn't look away. You are now. Silence pressed down on them. A heavy, irrevocable truth hung between them. She couldn't unknow it, couldn't run from it. Damien reached into his jacket and pulled out a small device, a burner phone, cheap and plain, already turned on. He held it out to her. What's that for? She asked. For whichever choice you make, he said. Choice? She echoed. What choice? Damien looked her straight in the eyes. I can return you to your father's house, he said. I can make last night disappear. I can remove my name from your life and let you slip back into the world you knew. They'll believe you were never with me. They'll stop hunting you, at least for a while. Her pulse quickened, returned to safety, to normalcy, to a life where Damien didn't exist. But then Damien stepped closer, voice dropping into something darker. Or, he said, you stay with me. Her breath caught. If you stay, he continued, you stay fully. You come under my protection, and my enemies will consider you part of my house, my world, my war. The words hit her like a blow. There's no half measure, he said. No pretending for convenience. If you stay here, you stay as mine. Publicly. Permanently. For as long as this fight lasts. Her lips parted. Damien! He reached up and tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear with devastating gentleness. If you choose me, he said, there's no going back. Not tomorrow. Not ever. Her heart pounded so hard she thought he might hear it. He lowered his voice, a whisper that felt like it cupped her heartbeat in his hand. So tell me, Lena. He leaned in. Do you want the life you had, where everyone lied to you? His fingers brushed her jaw. Or do you want the world you've stepped into, where the lies stop, but the danger never does? The burner phone trembled in her hand. He was offering her 2 doors. Go back to the old life built on deception, or step deeper into his world, a world of darkness, loyalty, warfare, and him. Her voice was barely a breath. What happens if I stay? Damien didn't smile, didn't soften. Instead, he whispered the truth that would haunt her no matter what she chose. If you stay, he said, you're not just under my protection. His eyes locked on hers. You belong to me. The mansion buzzed with a kind of tense preparation Lena could feel in the air, even through the layers of silk Damien had insisted she wear. A dress, deep midnight blue, fitted at the waist, soft against her skin, elegant enough to signal a message she still didn't fully understand. A message she had agreed to broadcast. His fiancée. Fake. Temporary. Strategic. But the moment Damien stepped into the room to collect her, one look from him made every part of her question. How fake any of it really was. His gaze swept over her, slow, consuming, almost reverent, before his expression hardened, as if he needed to wrestle something back under control. You look dangerous, he murmured. Her breath hitched. You mean beautiful? No. His eyes locked with hers. Dangerous. Because men will look at you, and that will test my self-control more than they understand. A shiver ran through her, one she hoped he didn't notice, but judging by the slight curve of his mouth, he did. He offered his arm. She took it. A choice she had made only hours ago, but one that felt far bigger now, as staff watched them descend the stairs. Guards opened doors, and everyone addressed her with a title that didn't belong to her. Miss Damien. She should correct them. She should deny this role. She should feel trapped. But instead, she felt anchored. Not by the lie she played, but by the man she played it with. The car waiting outside was a sleek, armored beast, and the guards flanking it were more heavily armed than before. Damien helped her inside, his hand lingering at the small of her back. Too soft. Too deliberate. Too real. Where are we going? she asked. His hand tightened over hers, just enough to remind her who he was. To a meeting, he said, with people who smile before they try to kill you. She blinked. Comforting. His lips twitched. That's why you're with me. The drive was silent except for the low hum of the engine. Lena studied Damien through her lashes, the way his jaw flexed, the way he tapped a finger on his thigh, a rhythm of impatience or calculation she couldn't tell. He wasn't anxious. He was waiting. As they approached the sleek modern building in the city center, guards swept the entrance. It felt like walking into a lion's den wearing perfume and a target on her back. Damien led her inside, his hand never leaving her waist. Instantly every head turned. Not at him. At them. At her. Whispers darted across the room. That's her? Damien's fiancée? Unexpected. Beautiful, though. Dangerous move on his part. Lena swallowed hard. Remember, Damien murmured close to her ear. You're not afraid. I didn't agree to lying that intensely, he smirked. The meeting room was vast, glass-walled, with a long table at the center. Men in tailored suits, rivals, allies, and everything in between took their seats. They eyed her with interest. Suspicion. Hunger. Damien pulled out a chair for her. She sat. He sat beside her. A united front. A pair. His hand rested casually, but unmistakably, on her thigh under the table. She jolted. He didn't move it. If anything, he pressed slightly harder. Easy, he murmured. Eyes are on us. Yes, she wanted to say. They're on your hand. Damien addressed the room, voice steady steel. We're here to discuss the breach in my organization. Someone here has been leaking information. Someone wants to see me fall. Murmurs rippled through the room. And now, he continued, that someone thinks targeting my fiancé will weaken me. Every eye swung toward her, sharp, assessing, predatory. Lena forced herself to sit tall. Damien's hand slid a fraction higher. She nearly forgot how to breathe. She stays under my protection, Damien said, voice edged with lethal promise. Anyone who touches her, anyone who even thinks of using her, will answer to me. A silence fell so complete she could hear her pulse. Then one man smirked. Congratulations, he said. We didn't even know you were engaged. Damien's fingers tightened, grounding her. We prefer privacy, he replied. Another man leaned forward. Or maybe you prefer surprises. She came out of nowhere. Convenient timing. Lena bristled, but before she could speak, Damien did. Sometimes the right person appears at the wrong time, he said smoothly, and a man would be a fool not to claim her. Claim. She felt those words like a hand closing around her heart. Gentle, possessive, devastating. After the meeting, as they stepped into a quieter hallway, Lena turned to him, breath uneven. You said things in there, she whispered. That didn't sound like an act. Damien pressed her back against the wall, not forceful, just close enough that she felt the heat of him everywhere. You think I'm pretending? He asked softly. His hand came up, tracing the line of her jaw. Slow, deliberate, reverent. You're not just a tool in this war, Lena. You're a turning point. Her chest tightened. Damien? If we keep this charade, he continued, voice low and dangerous, the lines between real and fake will blur fast. They already are, she breathed before she could stop herself. Damien's eyes darkened, hunger, warning, truth all tangled together. Then you'd better be sure, he murmured, because this world won't love you gently. His thumb brushed her lower lip. But I might. The danger she fled was behind her. The danger she stepped into was in front of her, and for the first time, Lena wasn't sure which one she feared more, or which one she wanted. The gunshot shattered the night. It wasn't loud, more like a single, vicious crack swallowed by the wind. But it was close. Too close, Damien didn't hesitate. His arm wrapped around Lena's waist, pulling her sideways just as a second bullet punched into the wall where her head had been a heartbeat earlier. "Down!" he ordered, quiet, lethal, absolute. Security swarmed instantly. Shouts, footsteps, the metallic click of weapons drawn. But all Lena felt was Damien's hand gripping her. Steady, sure, refusing to let her fall. Her heart thundered as he dragged her behind a stone column, shielding her with his body, even as the estate erupted into chaos. Who's shooting at us?" she gasped. His jaw was clenched tight. "Not at you." He didn't look at her. He stared into the darkness ahead, every line of his body coiled, ready to kill or die. "They came for me," Damien said. "The message we got this morning wasn't a threat. It was a distraction." She stared at him, her breath trembling. He had known danger was coming. He had prepared. And yet, he'd brought her with him anyway. "Why didn't you send me away?" she whispered. Damien didn't answer. Instead, he grabbed her hand and hauled her toward the side path leading to the garage. More gunfire erupted behind them. Closer this time. "Move!" he commanded. "Now!" They ran. Through the courtyard. Through the shadows. Through the storm of betrayal and bullets that had become their shared world. The garage door slammed shut behind them as his men sealed it with reinforced steel. But the moment they reached the black SUV, waiting in the center of the room, Damien stopped, his chest rising and falling with controlled fury. Lena reached for the door handle. He caught her wrist. She froze. And suddenly, jarringly, she was back in that first night. Rain, headlights, fear choking her. Him hitting the automatic locks before she could escape. "Why did you do that?" she asked now, voice raw. "Why did you lock the doors that night?" "To trap me," his grip tightened. "No," Damien said. "To save you." Her breath caught. He stepped closer, his face unguarded. No masks, no cold facade, no distance. Just truth, bare and cutting. "You jumped into my car," he said. "And 2 seconds later I saw the ambush waiting for me at the next intersection." Her pulse stilled. "I locked the doors because if you ran out," he continued, "you would have run straight into the men who were there to kill me." She opened her mouth, but no sound came. "I locked you in," Damien repeated softly, "because staying with me was safer than running into their guns." The weight of his confession crushed her chest, pressing against a part of her she'd been trying not to acknowledge. "You never told me," she whispered. "You were already terrified," he said, "and I needed you calm enough to survive." Lena swallowed hard. "So this whole time, you weren't trying to control me?" Damien stepped even closer, his voice a low, aching rasp. "I was trying to protect you." Her heart twisted painfully. "And now?" she asked. "After everything we've learned? After what you know about my father? And what I know about your enemies?" His gaze locked on hers, dark, hungry, honest. "Now," he said, "I need you alive more than I need revenge." Her breath trembled. Because this wasn't part of the charade. This wasn't strategy. This wasn't an act for his enemy's eyes. This was Damien, unmasked. He reached for her cheek, brushing away a streak of dust from when he had shoved her out of the line of fire. "You have a choice, Lena," he said quietly. "Not one I'm giving you. One reality is forcing on you." Her throat closed. "You can disappear," he said, voice steady but threaded with something fragile. "I can give you a new identity, a new life, your freedom, no debts, no enemies. You walk away from my world forever." Her chest tightened. "Or," he murmured, "you stay." He didn't look away. He didn't pretend indifference. He didn't hide the truth simmering beneath the offer. "If you stay," he said, "it won't be as my hostage." His hand slid from her cheek to her jaw, slow, reverent. "It won't be as a bargaining chip." His thumb traced her lower lip. "It will be as someone I will burn the world down to keep." Lena's pulse roared. "You step into my life," he said, "and that means my danger becomes yours. My enemies become yours. My war becomes yours." He leaned in, his forehead nearly brushing hers. "But so do my loyalty, my protection." A breath. "My heart." Her eyes stung. "Damien." "Choose, Lena," he whispered. "Go back to freedom." His fingers curled under her chin. "Or stay with the man who became your captor, your protector." His lips hovered above hers. "And something much more." The alarm still blared outside. The enemy was closing in. Time was running out. But for the first time since this nightmare began, Lena wasn't running. She was deciding. And the man standing before her, dangerous, damaged, devoted, waited for her answer with the kind of stillness that felt like surrender. The next breath she took felt like a choice that would bind her future. Run or stay. Freedom, or a heart that had wrapped itself around hers in the dark. And she realized, with terrifying clarity, one of those options no longer felt like danger. It felt like home. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to like and subscribe for more.